California is spending more on its prison system than on education, something that's pretty much unsurprising to the majority of people who are living in California. Now, a public policy group known as California Common Sense did a study on this just to see what the implications are and just how much more we're spending on the prison system as opposed to education. So they looked at the numbers from 1981 to 2011, and they found out that higher education spending is down by 13%. However, spending on California prisons and correctional programs is up 436%. Now, the part of the reason why this is happening is because we are putting more and more nonviolent offenders in prison for things like drug violations. Reasons people shouldn't be in prison, basically. Yeah. Over the past 3 decades, the numbers of inmates in California prisons has actually increased 8 times faster than the size of the overall population. And this isn't something that we're just seeing in California, which is part of the reason why I'm bringing this story up to you guys today. This is something that we're seeing across the country. We have created for-profit prison companies throughout the country because our state and county prisons are so overcrowded. We're putting so many people away for nonviolent drug offenses that we are now depending on private businesses that make money to lock people up, right? And of course, those businesses also lobby Congress to pass tough on crime legislation, and more and more people get put behind bars.
Yeah, so it's partly obviously drug offenses, partly 3 strikes laws, partly it's not just that we're putting more people in, but that we're leaving them in jail longer, and so it makes you accumulate a bigger population. 8 times the rate or the size of the population. Does anyone watching this think that there are 8 times as many criminals as there once were? No. Look, the crime is a little bit up because of the bad economy, but there are less rapes each year than there were a decade ago, less murders, less burglaries, all of those things. So why should the population in jail be going up? And it's bad that we're spending more on prison. Not all spending on prison is bad. They highlight a few things like increased healthcare in some cases, we would want that. If they're spending it to rehabilitate prisoners, that costs money. I have no problem with spending more on that. But if you're simply locking up more people, especially if you're locking them up in a more expensive fashion by sending them to for-profit prisons, then I don't see why we should be in favor of that. And when you put it up against education spending, which has gone down, I think that puts our priorities, at least at a state level, an interesting level of focus.
Now, one of the reasons why spending for the prison system is so expensive in California is because of the salary that we pay for corrections officers. And I'm not arguing that we should pay them less. We have a prison near San Francisco, for instance. San Francisco is an expensive place to live, so I can understand why they pay them so much more. And let's keep it real. They're corrections officers working in a prison. That is not an easy job. But at the same time, when you look at the amount of money we're paying our educators and you compare that to the amount of money we're paying staff and employees within our prison system, I mean, there's no comparison whatsoever. And when you look at a larger picture and you focus on higher education as well, you realize that higher education has been defunded significantly in the last decade. And as a result, students are needing to take out more loans. I mean, the cost, of course, gets transferred onto the students. So they take out more loans, they're in more debt, and they also get less in terms of quality education. Yeah. So this is a real problem, not just in California, throughout the country. And it's something that needs to be addressed. We have to stop putting nonviolent criminals, they're not even, anyway, people who use drugs, okay, should not be in prison. We should focus on getting them help so they quit their addiction, give them that option. If you're genuinely concerned about how harmful drug use can be on society, then let's do something to help them with their addiction as opposed to throwing them in prison where it'll ruin their lives forever, basically. No one wants to hire a convicted, criminal or anything like that. So it basically follows them around for the rest of their lives, all because they, did cocaine or whatever kind of drug they did. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Here's an idea. Take some of the money that you would otherwise spend on prison, put that into elementary and high schools, give kids a better education, get them to go to college, and maybe you'll have less criminals 10, 20, 30 years down the line.
Yep.